poem? Okay, this is the poem. To be the child was not good enough. Okay, so this is the poem which we are going to cover today, and you are going to read this first, and then we are going to explain it. Okay, read from here.
A young body light as winter sunshine, anew, seeds bursting promise, hung from a string of silence above its future. The chance of choice was never known, hunger, new hands, strange voices. Its cry came natural, tearing, water boiled in innocence gaily in a cheap pot. The child exchanged its curiosity for terror. The skin withdrew, the flesh submitted. Now cries make shards of broken air beyond an unremembered hunger in the peace of strange hands. A young body floats silently.
Yes. So now here we are going to see. Now this is this is something which you should know before reading the poem. Like Angelou's intention with this poem were to focus more on the mental impact of abuse rather than physical. There are few details provided about this child's life and identity, um, but readers do get a solid understanding of how incredibly traumatizing their early years were. The abuse transformed the child's mentally in a way. Okay, the abuse transformed the child's mentality in a way that the poet suggests is hard, if not possible, to come back from. So we are again going to see this poem. To beat the child was bad enough. So here, from this line, Maya Angelou is showing like she is humanist, okay, from the topic of the poem, and it sounds as if it's part of a conversation, the way this poem has been written. Okay, a young body light as winter sunshine, a new seed's bursting promise, hung from a string of silence. Above its future, the chance of choice was never shown. Hunger, new hands, strange voices, its cry came natural, tearing. So now here, if we see these highlighted parts like the light, she's using the word light, a young body light, as winter sunshine, a new seed's bursting promise, hung from a string of silence. So now this thing, when she's using such words, so she's showing us the vulnerability of those children who are abused. And here, again, here in this line, we can see a child. So now when she is writing like hung from a string of silence, so it's about a child, and this is showing the wall of silence around child abuse. Okay. So, there is completely silence and nobody talks about it when those children they are abused. And then the words like promise and silence, the words like light and promising, bursting promise, it is showing nature imagery to portray new beginning and new life. Okay, here the words as we have seen here. Then this part, hunger new hands, strange voices, its cry came natural, tearing. This is how, which is showing us the abuse, the abuse as those children are abused. And then this is also showing us the animal objectification and the way it is it's here like its cry came natural and daring, so it is something which happened daily, which was the routine. And then here the words like daring, this is showing on onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a literary device, another kind of literary device which shows the when there are the words which show the sounds of those words. Here I have written for you, like here you can see the onomatopoeia. Like simply, it shows the sounds. Like onomatopoeia is the use or creation of a word that phonetically imitates or resembles or suggests the sound that it describes. For example, here we have seen the word tearing, or we can see like crying, and and here other there are other examples like mew, the sound of the cat, and roar and chirp. Okay, so these are the sounds when these words are used. We call it the use of onomatopoeia in the poem. Okay, and then here again, water boiled in innocence. Like this is a kind innocence water boiled in innocence galley in a cheap pot. The child exchanged its curiosity for terror. The skin withdrew, the flesh submitted. So here it is showing um, a kind of uh, innocence. Okay, now the child of the innocence of the child. So it's usually innocent and used as their innocence, the innocence of those children is used as for their or becomes the cause of their abuse. Now here the word it's, so this is no identity, we don't know the gender of those children. And then here it is showing a kind of vivid imagery, like these lines. Now cries make shards of broken air beyond an unremembered hunger and the peace of strange hands. A young body floats silently. Okay, so now his abuse was just another statistic, as it is being showed, like another incident which is again unremembered. Okay, and then these lines, these words are showing the imagery that the child is physically and emotionally damaged. Okay, and now it's ending like a young body floats silently. So it's as dead as are its dead and never had a voice. Those children who are abused by society, they don't get any voice, to raise, so that they should raise their voice against those all abuses. Now here, To Be the Child Was Bad Enough by Maya Angelou. It's a poem about the abuse of a child and the ways in which they suffered mentally and physically. Now, the central idea is that this is a painful poem about the ways in which abuse impacts a young child's life. It reminds readers that suffering is more than just physical. Poem in a brief, like child remains unnamed throughout the poem, and the exact circumstances are not described. The main focus of the piece is their pain and hopelessness, concluding with the suggestion that they are grown, numb, and withdrawn into themselves in an attempt to escape. This is an incredibly painful poem that gets at the long lasting impact of abuse on our child's life. Now, here is a summary. To Beat the Child Was Bad Enough by Angelou explores the theme of child abuse and its impact on a child. In the first lines, the poet introduces readers to the abuse that a child suffered when they were born. They were, like all children, innocent. But that innocence soon turned to pain as they were forced to endure daily fear and suffering at the hands of those who were supposed to care for them. The poem goes on to describe how they struggled to cope with life on a daily basis and then finally gave in to their situation, unable to do anything to escape the abuse. And then there is the structure and form. Okay, there's one question like this is written like it's a free verse. So, will you describe what is free verse?
Describe what's free verse.
Yes.
Um, I don't know. Free verse? I don't think I know.
Yes. How would you describe free verse?
I I was saying I don't think I know.
Yes.
Um, like like that it doesn't rhyme.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So free verse is a poem when there isn't any particular rhyming pattern in it. Okay. So that is called free verse, and we are calling this poem as free verse. Okay. This is free verse poem. Now you can see here I have written like the free verse poem. It means like there isn't any specific rhyme scheme or a metrical pattern in the poem. Okay, the lines are now here we saw like there is, you can see here as you have read now, you can see there isn't any kind of particular pattern in it. Okay, no rhyming pattern, no specific rhyming pattern. Yes, there can be few words and there will be rhyming sound in them, but not in the whole poem. So that is called free verse, when there is no any specific pattern in the lines, in the stanzas. Okay. Now here you can see that these are the words where the lines are ending. So of course we can see from these words there is no any particular rhyming pattern in these words. The first line was ending with the word light, the second line was ending with the word new, and there was a promise in the third stanza. Probably there was galley in the next one. So but overall there wasn't any particular rhyming scheme in those stanzas. The stanzas are of different lengths. Stanza 1 is 8 lines long, stanza 2 is 5 lines long, and stanza 3 is 3 lines long. Stanza 4 is only 2 lines long. Okay, so there's no particular rhyming scheme, so that's why we are calling it free words. Another thing, like stanzas, these all are of different strength, different lengths. Okay, and stanza 4 with the last line only containing one word. Okay, there was only, okay, stanza 4 is only 2 lines long. As you can see here, this is a stanza 4. Okay, so this is a stanza 4. There are only 2 lines in this fourth stanza. Uh, okay. Okay, now these are the literary devices which are being used here in this poem. Like there is a caesura, the usage of caesura. This occurs when the poet inserts a pause into the middle of the line. Okay, you'll see that there isn't a complete sentence, a complete sense of that particular line, but there is a kind of pause in that line. So that kind of the way the poetry is written, that kind is known as caesura, when there isn't a complete sense of that sentence. The example, curiosity for terror, the skin, and withdrew. So a skin we saw it was in one line, and withdrew it was another line. Okay, so the skin and withdrew, the flesh submitted. So here in these words you will see there is a kind of pause between uh, in the middle of those lines. Okay, so that is what we call it caesura. This I have already told you in one of the poems which we have covered. Then there is enjambment. This can be seen when the poet cuts off a line before its natural stopping point. For example, transition between lines 2 and 3 of stanza 1. And then there is juxtaposition. So, okay, this occurs when the poet intentionally contrasts two elements in a poem. For example, winter sunshine evokes a feeling of warmth and cold. Okay, okay, read this again.
A young body light as winter sunshine and new seeds bursting promise hung from a string of silence above its future. The chance of choice was never known. Hunger knew hands, strange voices. Its cry came natural, tearing.
What do you understand from these lines?
Uh, I was like, um, well, obviously he's using lots of like, what's the word? Like he describes it using the weather or stuff like light or sunshine.
Mm.
Mm.
So, what are these words indicating?
Or like light and sunshine is usually to describe something good and positive, but then it's talking about like strange voices and crying.
Mm.
Um, maybe
Okay,
it's talking about
who is being discussed in this stanza? Like, who is the focus of this stanza?
a kid.
Yes, children. Okay, so that's why we are seeing these words, the word light and new, and these all words, they are showing us the innocence of those kids, of those children. They are just like, that's why we are using such kind of words which are not, which are soft. Show these words are showing us a kind of innocence and their softness. A young body light is winter sunshine. Okay, so we know that the sunshine of winter, that is not harsh. Okay, it's not, that much harsh as we face in those in summer. So a young body light is winter sunshine, a new seed's bursting promise hung from a string of silence above its future. The chance of choice was never known. Okay, so this is what they don't know about their destiny. They are very young. They don't know about the world, and they are also silent. When they are abused. They cannot speak, or they don't speak against that abuse. And then there is hunger, new hands, strange voices. Its cry came natural and tearing. Okay, so this is again, now here when we are talking about the voices, strange voices, here it is being indicated towards the people who take care of, or who are responsible of taking care of those people. Okay, but instead of taking care, they are rather abusing those children. Okay, so here, in the first stanza of this poem, the speaker begins by using nature related images to describe the child. The poet compares the child to winter sunshine and a new seed's bursting promise. This helps illustrate the child's inherent brightness. And then the beautiful image of the winter sunlight is one of that is also meant to represent the child's fragility. The images become more somber in the next lines, with the child depicted as being suspended or constrained by a string of silence. This can be interpreted as the suppression of the child's voice or agency. Okay, here you can see again you can see from here the meaning of the word agency, like it's a change of person as a poem goes along, is a significant structure device. It's a kind of also structuring device uh, in the poetry. Okay. And then now this agency, it determines the subject in each sentence. The subject is the agent of the verb. Okay. So here we talk about the subject of that, whom we are indicating, whom we are referring to. Okay. So here in the next lines, the poet describes that because of the abuse that happened in this child's life, they were they never really had a choice in how their life turned out. The child knew things like hunger, new hands, and strange voices. New hands is indicating like different people who were there, for taking care of those kids. Crying was normal in this child's life, is were continually threatening circumstances. So these are the things which were continuous, which was seen as routine in that child's life. Okay, read this stanza too.
Water boiled in innocence gaily in a cheap pot. The child exchanged its curiosity for terror. The skin withdrew, the flesh submitted.
Okay, so now here in this stanza, which is a quinton means the stanza containing 5 lines. The speaker describes for readers a tragic transformation in the child's life. While the child was born in innocence into its life, it soon exchanged curiosity for terror. The simple, chilling image is furthered by the skin withdrew, the flesh submitted. Okay. Here, the poet is suggesting that the child soon grew used to the abuse they had to endure and chose not to fight but to submit. So he became habitual of that abuse. He submitted to that abuse. They were entirely helpless to change their circumstances because they were small, they were innocent, they did not know anything, they were so small and they were helpless and powerless, so they could not do anything against it. Okay, now there is stanza 4 and stanza 3 and 4. Yes, read this.
Now cries make shards of broken air beyond an unremembered hunger in the peace of strange hands. A young body floats silently.
Okay, so there are two stanzas. This is stanza number 3 and this is stanza number 4. Here, the child's suffering, the poet describe, is so intense that the cries make shards of broken air. Their pain is deep and powerful in a way that's almost tangible. Okay. The poet also indicates that now the basic needs and desires of the child have been neglected or forgotten within the abuse they are enduring. And then the final lines indicate that the child has perhaps died. The poet writes, a young body floats silently. The child may have died as a result of the abuse, or alternatively, they have disassociated from it so deeply that they are experiencing a kind of numbness or detachment as a coping mechanism. Their spirit is broken, and the cries are now silent because now they are become habitual of these all things that abuse, so they have just become silent to these all things. Now there are few things about the poem, like here you can see the central message, like it is abuse is mentally and physically impactful. So here we talked about abuse which was physical as well as mental abuse. Okay, then there are themes like disappointment and wellness. Speaker is unknown. It can be the Angelou herself, it can be anyone else. And then these are the emotions evoked. like fear and pain, and then free verse. Okay, we are just going to see this thing here. Now, what is the poem analysis take? Okay, so what is the analysis take? Just read it.
Um, there are two different interpretations of the poem's conclusion that readers might be interested in considering. The poem describes the child as floating and silent at the end of the poem. This could indicate that the child has passed away as a result of their abuse, or that they have chosen to dissociate from their life, blocking out the world in an effort to cope with their trauma.
Okay, so if there is, it is being said like there are two different kinds of interpretations. How would you describe in your own words which are these two different types of kinds of interpretations?
Describe what they've said.
Like, it is here. The poet describes child. Okay, there was. Okay, it is here. There are two different interpretations of the poem's conclusion that readers might interested in considering. Okay, so which are these two interpretations at the end, which we saw? How would you describe like there are two interpretations?
Obviously, one being that they passed away, like their body has floated,
Yes.
obviously either like heaven or something. And
Hmm.
then the dissociation, like they're floating away from their problems, like they don't want to relate to it. They're trying to move away from it.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So, should we do another poem?
Um, up to you.
Okay. Okay. So this is another poem. Okay. You are going to read it. This is the name. Okay. This is the title of the poem, Man. Okay. And then you are just going to read it first. Okay. Read it.
When I was young, I used to watch them behind the curtains as men walked up and down the street. Wino men, old men, young men sharp as mustard. See them, men are always going somewhere. They knew I was there, 15 years old, and starving for them. Under my window, they would pause, their shoulders high like the breasts of a young girl, jackets tail slapping over those behind men.
Okay.
One day they hold you in the palms of their hands, gentle as if you were the last raw egg in the world. Then they tighten up just a little. The first squeeze is nice, a quick hug, soft into your defenselessness. A little more, the heart begins, wrench out a smile that slides around the fear. When the air disappears, your mind pops, exploding fiercely, briefly.
Hmm. This is the continuation. Yes.
Mm. Like the head of a kitchen mat shattered, it is your juice that runs down their legs, staining their shoes when the earth rights itself again, and taste tries to return to the tongue your body has slammed shut. Forever no keys exist.
Hmm.
Then the window drawers will open your mind there just beyond. The sway of curtains men walk, knowing something going someplace. But this time I will simply stand and watch, maybe.
Hmm. Um, can you give me the basic idea, the overall idea of this? What did you understand from this whole reading?
Um, Well, at the start, she's talking about the different types of men, like
Hmm.
the old man, the young man,
Hmm.
the wino man.
Huh. How would you
Um,
how would you describe Vino?
I don't know.
Okay, those people who are homeless, and especially those who take excessive or who have excessive, who take excessive uh, alcohol, are the things like that. Okay, so that is vino. Vino is you can relate it with wine. Okay, yes. Now tell me.
Um, it's more just like this is like the characteristics. Like she talks about the different types of them,
Hmm.
and then their shoulders high,
Hmm.
and their jacket tails slapping
Hmm.
over.
Hmm.
Mm,
Okay. Yes.
Um, and then she says like one time they'll hold you like you're fragile and like a raw egg, and then
Hmm.
it talks about how they change until you're like defenseless.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, she's just talking the defenselessness she has, like your body has thumbs shut, like
Hmm.
you can't even respond.
Hmm. Okay. The overall, if we just summarize it in one single line, so this whole is talking about the relationship, you can call the writer or the poet, with men. Okay, and not a good one. The relationship that is also a kind of abusive relationship. Okay, this here, the writer, the speaker is talking about her own relationship with different men, but that was also abusive relationship. So I'm just thinking we should start it in next class because there are few minutes left, so we will not be able to complete it in today's lecture. Should we go ahead, or should we do it in another class?
We can do it in the next class.
Okay. Okay, I'm not doing because we are not going to complete it in this time, so we are going to just leave it here. Okay.
Okay.
Are you preparing those poems? Are you doing reading or any kind of, anything by yourself?
Yes, I'm doing reading.
Okay. So have you read all those?